So we're starting a new feature today where we want to follow up on the sermon that was preached on Sunday and just apply it to real life. What's going on Monday to Friday? How do we live it out? So I've asked Robert if he would just share just a little bit from his on one concept of his one complex concept of his sermon on Sunday from John 10, where Robert, you referenced something like intimate or relational, doxological, missional living, and I'm wondering if you could just tease that out for us. Explain what that's about.
Sure. What I actually said was that that's kind of the center axis of everything, center axis of what God's doing, center axis of His Word, center axis of our lives. There might be other ways of construing details and verses and so on, but that really holds it all together. I use the word intimate. Relational probably would be more poetically balanced, but I think we use the word relational kind of broadly, and I want to drive into the fact that the relationship is to be one where there's a growing intimacy. So, I was made for relationship. You were made for relationship. In John 15, Jesus says, "Abide in me and I in you." There's the reciprocal kind of foundation for everything. And so I think the idea is that we would live in a God-saturated world that's throbbing with His presence, and that we would then attune our lives so that we can communicate intimately and grow in that relationship. The doxological piece, doxa, is the Greek word for glory. We're made for worship. And when I adopt a pattern and value system that says God's the center around which everything is organized, and He's the pinnacle of my affections, and that's what I'm trying to grow to, then the world comes into its proper shape. Mm-hmm. That's what's made for, God at the center, not me. And then the missional piece is, I was actually made to make a difference, and God is working. According to 2 Corinthians 5, God was in Christ reconciling the world to Himself, and then He's committed to us a ministry of reconciliation. Obviously, the pinnacle of that is when I can proclaim the gospel message itself, but it also includes everything about a shalom life, because that authenticates the message, and it previews the reality that God is not just doing something that's going to take place sometime in the future, but right now He wants to change things. So can I leverage my life for redemptive purposes?
Mm-hmm. So. Let's follow up on that piece, because we want this to actually be really personal for people. So when you think of how you have tried to pursue living doxologically, living missionally, living relationally with God, what has that looked like for you, and has one of those perhaps more recently captured your heart?
Sure. It's looked like a battle, a struggle, and a series of stumblings.
There's some good honesty.
So, and I think that's true for everyone. And the battle changes, the struggles change. If we're growing and advancing, things that used to be difficult aren't. But there's always more territory. I think historically, the grace of God worked its way out in my life in such a way that the doxa-missional piece were kind of signature strengths. And when I say strength, that's in a relative sense. We all stumble, we're all human, we're all frail, we're all works in progress. So it's not like I've got that all together.
But God has graced you, and you've had some faithfulness and some success there.
So there's been a lot of sharing of Christ, and recently we've just made an extra effort, recently by the last couple of years in particular, to say, really, let's escalate our sense of generosity. Mm-hmm. I'm wired so that I'm very private, I'm very personal, so it's not just generosity with money, that of course is part of it, but generosity with time, generosity with heart. Those things take out of me. As much as I love people, it drains me. And can I adopt a generous pattern? That's part of exalting Christ and sharing Christ in the world. The area that has been the biggest challenge during this last season, ironically enough, is the intimacy piece. There's just so much that pulls attention away and distracts, and so I've been really trying to grow. Part of it's even saying, God, this is a relationship, and I'm having a harder time finding you, so would you please come and find me? So I pray that. I pray regularly since last week when God really impressed me with that. I prayed this morning, may I live today for Christ's sake, and not just in the Doxa-Missional sense where it's like, may he be exalted and may I be partner with him in an impact in the world, but may I enjoy this with him. May I lean into that relational side. Something that's been really foundational and helpful for me is just practicing the presence of Christ.
What does that mean? What does it look like?
Just invite him into every moment. There's a book written 500 years ago or so called Practicing the Presence of Christ, ironically enough. It's a really short pamphlet. It's an easy read, but it's a monk who had a spiritual vitality that others didn't. They finally talked him into writing it down, and he said, I just try to do everything with Jesus. If I'm washing the dishes, I'm consciously aware of and sharing the experience with Jesus. That's helped me a lot because life is very scattered, and if I can keep centering back into God's here and then relating to him in that,
right,
that's helpful. So those of you that know me know anything with the sky fascinates me and thrills me. So if I look at the sky and see something beautiful, I try to share that with God. He and I have a deal. If he'll do a beautiful sunset and I notice it, I'll stop and notice it and enjoy it with him and invite him into that. That's a simple thing. Obviously, the foundational disciplines of Bible reading and prayer, and those all have to be just bread and butter of life. But what am I specifically wired for, and how do I love Jesus in this moment? Do I love him, and do I love him more than other things? That's really the question, and what am I doing to cultivate that? So
I could see that being really powerful. How do I love Jesus in this moment?
Yeah.
Just going through the day asking that. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
That's good. Great. Hey, I think we're going to stop there.
Great.
But hopefully this has been helpful. Love to hear what was helpful to you. If you could write some comments, tell us what you liked, tell us what you'd want more of, tell us what was meaningful to you, and thanks for viewing with us.
Thanks. God bless you guys.